From Louisville, WDRB News at 10 starts now.
Hello and thanks for joining us. I'm Tamara Evans. We are keeping you up to date with the very latest school closings on the bottom of your screen. After the two men walked out the front door, they came over to this fence area where they moved this gravel away, making a hole so they could fit underneath. Homeowners are dealing with their own personal damage when trees have hit their homes. The city is also dealing with its own damage, like these sidewalks that are now uneven and raised up after trees nearby have toppled over. Well, David, that's exactly right. One person was killed when that plane hit the pine tree, and we are being told it was the pilot, but his name is not being released at this time. This is the building behind me where the new animals will eventually be brought. It's the old Public Works building, and it's located right next to the Animal House Adoption Center. For much of the night, celebrities walked the red carpet here at the Mint Jubilee Party, excited about being in Louisville and, of course, for the Kentucky Derby. And if you plan to be up here tomorrow evening for the Quaker State 400 Sprint Cup race, make sure to give yourself plenty of time. More than 125,000 people are expected not only here at the Kentucky Speedway, but also out tailgating, so there probably will be some traffic. Reporting from the Kentucky Speedway, Tamara Evans, WDRB News. Woo! There's no doubt about it.
Can't wait till the show.
10-year-olds Cameron Nelson and Trent Stetzer are huge wrestling fans, but for this show...
Are you ready to show Trey what it's all about? And if he looks down?
There's a special meaning.
Trey was here last time.
It wasn't too long ago, 14-year-old Trey Zwicker sat in these seats at an Ohio Valley wrestling show. Like these fans watching his favorite wrestlers. His was Cliff Compton.
It's quite the honor. I do remember seeing him in the crowd. He was here when I had a hellacious fall off a ladder and broke my ankles.
You could hear the bone crack? Yeah. And Trey was sitting right there, right beside that number 2 guy. And he was like, oh! And that's the last time I got to see Trey.
Trey's body was discovered on May 11th in a creek behind Liberty High School. So far, there have been no arrests, and his cause of death has not been released, but police say foul play was involved.
I'm just down that Trey didn't get to come here because wrestling was his favorite show.
So for this show,
this goes back to Trey's great-grandfather.
The wrestlers are fighting for a bigger cause, to pay tribute to Trey.
I don't think there's enough words. Cliff has got a heart of gold, and he's just super great.
You know, these guys, they're so big, but their hearts
are bigger,
are so much greater. Trey will be looking down on us, and he'll love it.
And for his family members who are among these fans,
love you, Trey.
They're yelling extra loud for the young teen taken too soon.
Because I want Trey to hear me up in heaven so that he can wake up maybe and look down at us.
Putting some final touches on his family's Christmas tree.
So many emotions. It's nice though. Feels real good to be back home, family.
Kerry Porter is getting ready for a busy weekend. It's the first Christmas he'll spend with his family after 14 years behind bars for a crime he didn't commit.
I just wanted to get home for my mother. I was worried about her health, and because she's worried about me.
Underneath the tree are some gifts to welcome him home.
Nice suit.
The one he won't replace, however, is his lucky hat.
We did time together. This is a new guy here.
And it's not only family reaching out.
One guy gave me $20 yesterday, didn't even know me.
But it's his story they know all too well.
Total exoneration, they must have hardcore evidence that somebody else did it for sure, and that I'm not that person.
He was sentenced to 60 years for the murder of Tyrone Camp back in 1996, 2 days after Christmas. It wasn't until a police interview surfaced in the case implicating a different suspect, and DNA testing of the murder weapon showed no trace of Porter's DNA, that prosecutors realized they had the wrong person.
What's it like? Yeah. It's really horrible. A lot of guys come to me and say, man, I don't see how you do it, man. I went crazy. I'd kill myself. I'd be fighting every day and all this other stuff. But I had to stay focused, and because the fight is always within.
A fight Kerry Porter has clearly won.
Such a blessing this Christmas.
Shall we walk?
For more than a year.
16 months and a week at this point.
More than 30 million steps.
Walking across America and back.
over 7,000 miles.
Today he stopped in Providence. After Tuscaloosa, Yoakum is heading to Atlanta.
Troy Yoakum has been walking with a purpose.
Really, the entire idea spawned from a single email from a friend of mine who's an Iraq War veteran. He had lost his job. He was very depressed and suicidal.
This Iraq War veteran says he's walking to help his friend and others like him. So far, he's raised more than $500,000 along the way.
Not a day goes by that I'm not introduced to another family that needs help.
With his wife and dogs by his side,
Emmy here has walked 2,740 miles.
They are on a mission to help other veterans.
It's a great feeling to help all these families in need and to see how thankful they are once we help them. And very, very emotional. Cried many, many tears on this trip.
Through injuries and roadblocks, he's continued on. Yoakum is now back in Kentucky and 60 miles from the finish line in Louisville.
It feels really good to be this close to home.
But he says the journey isn't over yet. For all the soldiers that have fought for our country, Troy Yoakum continues to fight for them one step at a time.
The job of continue to help military families doesn't stop, and I have to figure out some way that we can raise more money and help more families.
As Fox 41's Tamara Evans explains tonight, the city there is already facing money problems, and this storm could only be giving them more. Tamara.
Well, David, both homeowners and officials say their work is just beginning to determine what the damage from the storm is going to cost them. The sounds of chainsaws were heard throughout parts of New Albany today as cleanup began from storm damage.
I run in the basement. We heard this boom, 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 crack, crack, crack.
Shauna Ritchie came out of her Elm Street home to discover quite a mess in her backyard.
The big part of the tree is coming from the second house from the root of it.
But for neighbors, it wasn't only the visible damage that was alarming.
The scariest part was there was a huge gas main that was busted by the tree, so we all had to evacuate.
And I immediately started getting burned at the throat, the face, my chest. It's like I was really in hell in that bed.
The gas would be an immediate repair workers would make. Throughout the day, it was damage such as this that continued to leave a mark. While some homeowners are dealing with their own personal damage when trees have hit their homes, the city is also dealing with its own damage, like these sidewalks that are now uneven and raised up after trees nearby have toppled over. City officials say they are assessing the damage and keeping a running total on that and what overtime has been spent so far.
He fully intends to make a claim, up the food chain to either state government or the federal government.
So far, the city has no idea what the running total is for all the damage. But with declining budgets, the storm damage is another hit, especially for New Albany's emergency fund.
They've been depleted, so more than likely we will have to go to the Common Council and see if once we get the numbers, we'll have to ask them to appropriate some funds that the city has in reserve.
While they wait for that to happen, in the meantime, for homeowners impacted, the cleanup from the storm continues.
I don't know how long it's going to take, but it is going to take a while.